Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I am delighted today to welcome Dr. Nicholas Neaves to have a lovely conversation with us about all things relationship, intimacy, and much more. Nicholas is a coach, a homeopath, an author, and he lives in South Africa and is an amazing father to three beautiful daughters. And he is an owner at Unbound Coaching, and he offers coaching designed to help you journey into your heart and find your essence for deeper intimacy and relationship enrichment. And Dr. Nick says the Peter Pan in all of us is a heartbeat, a soul with limitless potential. However, the lighter frequencies of passion, inspiration, and creativity often become entangled in heavier layers of fear and guilt and are bound up as energy blocks, knots, or nodes. So, without further ado, welcome, Nick. It's so lovely to be speaking to you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. So would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be doing what you're doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I think the journey is inspired by a lot of the relationships that I've had in my life, obviously, and just the basic values that I was brought up with, which was that, relationships is where your wealth lies. And the more you can nurture those and develop those, then, that for me was always the level of success that I could achieve was through relationship. My wife had a big part in my journey too, Alicia. She passed on 6 years ago. And, one of the things that she said in her last few moments there was, Nick, I'm just so sorry we didn't get to dance more together. And that has stayed with me and inspired me also to just help people realize how important moments are and how important their lives are in the relationships that they share with others, and how to take those deeper so that they can get the fullest experience from those, and not to hold back. You mentioned there the fears and the guilts and things that create layers around our hearts. I think the more we can peel those away, the greater experiences we can have. So people have touched my life. I was very honored to have been married for 10 years, and I've got three beautiful daughters as well, and they all inspire me to do this work. And it's all about helping people get to their essence so that they can share that in relationship, and hopefully the person can reciprocate that as well.
Yeah, well, I know I've known you for many years already, and I know what a journey you've been on in the last couple of years, especially being a single parent now, looking after your children and bringing them up from very young ages.
Yeah.
And I can actually resonate with some of that, because I've been in the same situation myself in the past, also having young children to bring up as a single parent after my husband died in a car accident. And I know that it's not at all easy. And, sometimes people think it might be easier for a woman being a mother. But I think that for a man to be doing this, it's quite remarkable. And I know that you're doing an absolutely amazing job with it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Nick, what would you say is, how would you define intimacy in a relationship? What would you say is the most important thing about it in a relationship?
Sorry, Miss, you're going to have to run that past me. I lost that last thread there.
Oh, okay. Probably the internet a little. So what would you say in a relationship is the most important thing? And how would you define intimacy in a relationship?
Well, I think at the moment, attention is the key word, attention and focus. I think the world is just dispersing our energy so much with a lot of the fear and also the technology that's in our lives at the moment. Also, I mean, how often do you find couples sitting at a restaurant at a table when it's not locked down, and they're both on their phones and things like that? So it's very rare that you find a couple where they are aware of the attention that they're giving each other. They tend to lose that quite quickly, meaning focus, appreciation for the other, allowing the other to be who they are. And it all comes from, the word intimacy. The word intimacy for me is about being able to enter a moment, no matter what emotional state you're in, and be brave enough to enter a moment and share from your deepest heart space. And that's not always an easy thing for people to do. We often have those layers and sort of blocks within us. So intimacy for me is being able to take a moment deeper. Now, that doesn't mean sexually. It can be with a friend. It can be with a partner, of course. But it's like, how do we create that intimate moment that is beyond the average exchange that we have? Because we're all diverted. Our energy is elsewhere very often, and it's not actually in the moment or being present with the person. So it's a lot about presence. It's a lot about being able to disconnect from the outside world, disconnect from stress, disconnect from any fear that you have, and just be able to share openly.
Yeah, and what would you say about communication? You know, because I think that there are a lot of people who really struggle to communicate, and you know, this is also brought about by things from their past and blocks that they have.
Yeah, I think, the first thing that I try and help people to do is get in touch with their bodies, because, communication starts actually in the body. And if people can get a bit more familiar with their own body and what their body's communicating to them, if people can understand what their body is highlighting for them, then they can better share that with the person that they're with as well. Because we're all often too in our head, and at the moment with so much information that's available, we get into such a big psychobabble that we often coming from other people's stories and other sort of ideologies versus our own truth. And our own truth lies in our body. And if you can just get in touch with what the body is saying and share that. And what I mean by that is, for example, like talking to you here right now, what I'm feeling in my chest right now is my heart's still beating. There was a part of me that was anxious to be on this call, but an excitement at the same time. And just seeing you again just reminds me so much of what we've shared and your journey. So my heart feels like it's connecting with your heart. And that just grounds me very nicely into the chair that I'm sitting in. And it feels so much more alive when I can share something like that with you, rather than, how do I look? Who am I trying to impress? Or being in my head. It's about dropping into my heart and, just sharing that. But that comes from awareness in one's body, being able to drop into your body and feel what's happening in your heart and say, what, my heart is beating very fast right now. That's my truth in this moment. My heart is anxious. It's excited. Can I share that with you? Because that takes things to another level. And that body awareness comes through obviously coaching and training and getting aware of these things, because of course the body can also carry a lot of pain. That's where trauma resides, and people aren't always happy to go there. So the more trauma and pain that is in the body, I find people then communicate less or more poorly, because they're trying to protect obviously what's hidden inside the body. So body work and awareness of the body is key when it comes to communication. And being able to open up the throat muscles here. We do a lot of exercises in the coaching, whether it's singing or just making sounds, just to open up this area, just to be able to get your expression going. A little bit more, and that really helps in a relationship. So yeah, communication, I think we need to get in touch with our own body's communication with ourselves. That's the key point there first, is you have to be in communication with yourself.
Yeah, very, very important, because I think sometimes we're blocking within ourselves, even allowing ourselves to voice anything, even to ourselves, never mind to somebody else. And that can be quite a difficult thing to overcome at times when you're really stuck in trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And I think these days what I'm finding also is people, they haven't taken the time to look at a lot of these things, and they just repeatedly enter relationships with that trauma that just spills over into that next relationship. And the abuse that happens and things as well, and the toxicity, unfortunately, in that. So one doesn't have to be perfectly healed. This is saying that you have to be whole and you have to go and do work on yourself, and only when you're 100% okay with who you are in your life that you should enter a relationship. That's not necessarily true. You just have to be happy enough, right? You have to be healed enough to know that what you have has value, that you can add value, and that you can give that other person focus and attention, meaning you can separate yourself from them. So you know what's your stuff and then you know what's their stuff. And you keep each other accountable for that. I think that's one of the key things there is accountability. And a lot of people have lost that, with a lot of the opportunity to go online and things like that and keep things hidden, etc., etc. There's so much that people do not account themselves for, meaning responsibility in relationship also. Because at the end of the day, it's an absolute privilege, isn't it? It's an honor. I mean, it's incredible that there is somebody there who wants to walk a path with you and shows up for you and is there for you, and these things shouldn't be taken for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard from another coach as well that the way you leave a relationship, the way you leave one relationship is the way that you may enter another relationship. And sometimes, people don't end the relationship in a good way and have good closure. And I think knowing that although a relationship ends, it doesn't mean that what happened before it wasn't there. The good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And usually there's a lot of good. And I think that sometimes when people end a relationship, they focus on all the bad. And actually, no matter how long the relationship has been, it could be, just a short time, 3 months, or it could be years and years. And whenever you're in a relationship with someone, you were there for a reason, together. And there would have been amazing times that you've had. So I think that sometimes people forget all of that and they go out in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with a guy recently where his wife brought him in for a session and she wasn't trusting him. And, I said to him, so, you've been dragged in here into the session. What's up, man? Why aren't you, allowing her to trust you more? Have you done anything that warrants her mistrust? And he said, no, I've been loyal and I do this and I provide and I do that and the next thing. So I asked him, how are your last few relationships? Tell me about them. And he said that the last 5 relationships he had ended really, really badly. Okay, so he wasn't in a place of congruency with those traces, those emotional little tears stay with us and pervade our nervous systems, and in a way that made his heart be in a more closed off state than what she was hoping for, what she was expecting from him. So she trust because he wasn't sharing more openly, but he had trauma from those previous relationships, you see. So it wasn't the fact that he was cheating on her, but his energy was cheating on her. And what I mean by his energy was cheating on her is that he hadn't cleared up his past connections. And what he needed to do was say in his own time, who was number 1, who was his first love, who was number 2, who was number 3, who was number 4, and who was number 5. He needed to get clear with each one of those women. And like you said, they take the good from each one of those relationships and allow each one of those women, therefore, a place in his heart as having been in his life in love. And then they can all rest peacefully inside his heart where he can then let them go. Because remember, whatever we can love, we can let go of, right? So if you can find love for them, he can let them go. Now, the minute he did that and he could let them go, her trust would increase, because then he would become more available to his current partner, and she would then therefore be number one in his life, because she would then feel his presence more then, right? He'd be more available, more attentive, more focused on her. So absolutely, I think, the previous relationships, we need to clear that up. I call it house cleaning. You got to go and do some house cleaning with things like that, and get things in order as much as you possibly can. None of us are going to be 100% ready for a relationship, and that's not what we need to aim for. We need to be brave enough to enter, but we also have to be accountable for the realization that we've had trauma. Because it drives me crazy how people enter relationships when they know they've been through so much, and it's unfair on the new person, right? And it may take a couple of weeks, couple of months just to do some work on a few things and jump into some therapy and things and just clear a few things up before entering another relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we all know when we first meet someone, like because we're so intoxicated with the hormones, and then of course the reality kicks in where the trauma surfaces and the pain surfaces, and then we start projecting like crazy onto each other, and it can be a real train wreck.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, we don't have to be perfectly okay, because we never are going to be perfectly okay, because we're growing every day. We're always learning something new about ourselves, and uncovering things that we were suppressing and hiding, even to ourselves.
Exactly.
Even though we think we've dealt with so many things in our life, usually as you start uncovering one layer, another whole bunch of layers open up as well to be dealt with. So yes, we don't have to be perfect, but we have to be accountable and responsible, and actually, and also to be open with the partner that we are with. Whether it's a romantic relationship or just a friendship. To be open and vulnerable, and let people have to know what we're thinking. They're not mind readers. And if we don't open up, how will anybody know how to go on in a relationship with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I know that you work with a lot of women, but let's face it, it's not all that women are always traumatized and having a hard time in a relationship. I mean, many men are as well, and I know that you also work with men. And what would you say when you're working with women? What is the thing that they say is the most difficult for them in relationships?
It's the availability of the man's emotions, the availability of his heart, the availability or the skill that he has in being able to open her heart deeper than what she can on her own. I think that's an important factor that, women are aware these days that they have independence and they have means to be able to make their life full and be fulfilled and, take their hearts to a very deep level through life experiences. So they're aware that a man needs to add value in that area around connection and in the heart, so that she feels that he has a place that he can create safety for her, that he can take the connection deeper, that he makes her life lighter, meaning that he has the skill to be able to break through any moods or concerns that she has, because so many men just sort of emotionally back out of those tussles. They run away with the tail between their legs because, oh no, she's in a mood, or she's complaining about this, or she's complaining about that. Women want that adventure. They want the adventure of the heart, and they're just missing out that availability. So that's one of their biggest concerns, is just, that things have become stale, things have become boring, things are not what she expected, etc. And yet, the statistics show that women stay longer than men in relationships, right? So women often, I was working with another guy last week where, he was so surprised that his wife walked out on him after 10 years of marriage, because he thought everything was fine. And I said to him, you know what, it took her 2 years to get to that point to decide to do that. And you've been missing all the signs that she's been unhappy and unfulfilled. You see, because men are often you know, focusing so much on resources and energy, you know, we often can't stay in the actual relationship, in the intimacy for too long, because we get a sense that we're losing our freedom. We get a sense that we're losing our ability to be able to provide and protect for the family, right? So we can't all be, you know, all comfortable and cushy, sitting on the couch having wonderful intimate moments. You know, man's mind is thinking, hey, what about tomorrow? What about next week? What about the next month? What about 2 years? What about 5? We're always strategizing and planning. And women feel that. They feel very subtly that disconnect, you know, when he's there but he's not there, right? And I think presence, women yearn for presence. You know, a lot of what they complain about is, you know, how do I get my guy to be more present with me? And you know, and the invitation that women forget to offer men, again, is the awareness of their body, and just how much light they can emanate. You see, there's a choice that we need to get to in relationship as well as individuals, and that choice is, do I choose to channel, when I say channel, fear or love through my body? Right? So do I allow life to dictate to me and create stress that I hold as tension in my body, where I clamp down and I shorten my breath and I go into stress, cortisol, hormonal responses, because then my body's not that available to my partner, right? And partnership is defined by intimacy, right? Where we can make love and share each other's bodies versus just being friends. So, you know, the ability to be able for a woman to also channel more openness through her body. And that is a practice. Obviously, that's something that one can practice to invite the man more into presence with her. I think that's the
Right.
key there also, because it's through her body. It's not through her words or through her direction or leadership, which is more of a masculine thing. You know, it's more through her softness, her openness, her receptivity, that she draws a man into her more intimate space. And women forget how to do that also.
Yeah, I think especially with the way that life is these days as well,
Yeah.
because so many more women are basically taking part in what would have been men's roles before, you know,
Mm,
in the business fields and things like that. So they also have as much stress and strain
mm,
on their lives as well. And
yeah.
sometimes it does become you know, a little difficult for them to distinguish where are they playing, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, there's so many studies on all of this happening at the moment, which is wonderful. You know, because of the whole gender thing, and biologically, men and women are still very different, and we respond differently to stress through our hormonal systems. You know, so no matter what you identify with, you know, all due respect to people who choose whichever direction, that's not what I'm interested in all. But what I'm interested in is, how does the physiology of a feminine being react differently to somebody who's masculine? And it's very different. You know, for example, for a woman to feel great attraction for her partner, she needs 20 times more estrogen in her body than what he's got. And for a man to really be active and motivated in the relationship, he needs 20 times more testosterone pumping through his body than in her body. Okay, now the problem with stress for women is because of cortisol and the demand that they have in the workplace, etc., which is amazing. It's wonderful that women can do these things, but they're losing the practice of transitioning from the battlefield back into relationships. So they're slaying their dragons wonderfully, and the world needs that. Please, more women do that, because you guys do it incredibly well. But it's about reminding them on how to be able to then also get back into the into a hormonal space.
Yeah. Quite amazing. Really interesting.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what would you say then when you have men clients?
Mm.
What is their biggest problem in a relationship?
That they're unable to make her happy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that they, you know, they've tried everything and she still complains.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, right. It's like, no matter what I do, she's unhappy. No matter, you know, I tried this, I tried that, and it's not making a difference. And again, it takes two to tango, right? It's not just him, but that's his biggest complaint normally. And then, of course, her unavailability sexually. He complains a lot about that. But again, you see, what happens in a relationship also is that we forget that, it does require, like anything, it requires skill and upgrading those skills. Life is so demanding and changing so quickly that we often don't keep up with that when it comes to intimacy. And particularly men, because men kind of, we have that hunter approach where once we've made the kill and we've hunted and we've done the job, then we focus elsewhere versus remembering to do that every single day. So what I really try and teach men is seduction, daily seduction. And that's not necessarily sexual seduction. That is, how do you romance a woman's heart? How do you make her feel safe? How do you make her anticipate more from you in the relationship? How do you make her life lighter? By bringing your humor and your presence and your strength to her, right? And how do you keep deepening connection with her? Right? Because these are skills men don't have, right? And one of the best words that I offer men actually is the word because. And I say to him, when you're having chats with her, keep throwing in the word because, right? So if you said to me, hey Nick, how was your day? Most men kind of go, that was fine, thanks, all good. you know and she's like, is that it? Like, but I can feel that your body is tense. I can feel that you're stressed, like something's worrying you, and here you're telling me that your day is fine. You're lying to me, right? That's what she's thinking. He's thinking, well, please don't ask me any more questions. I've had a really busy day, so when I say to you my day is fine, I really mean my day is fine, because I don't want to unpack all the stress, because I've put it away in my brain somewhere where I know it's safe and I know it won't hurt you. That's how men try and protect women also, is by not, spilling all the beans, making her worry. But if you can say, because, so my day was fine because I had a meeting with Peter at 3 and it went really great and he was very impressed with my presentation. I felt good about myself and proud. That's why I had a good day. You see, now he's taken the communication a level deeper by saying because. So she gets an insight into his day that he wasn't sharing before. So she can hear, wow, he had a good meeting. Wow, he connected with Peter. Wow, he felt good about himself. There's the man I married, right? There's the partner that I want. There's the real person. And that's there. But again, what's interesting is you also get a lot of guys who are also very much in their feminine at the moment, right? I mean, that's what's also been happening. Women have stepped a bit more into their masculine sides and men a little bit more into their feminine sides. So men these days are often sharing and talking way too much in a relationship also. You get guys like that too, where women often also say to me, man, I just wish my partner would shut up. Because then she, like you get these guys who are very in touch and they've done all the work and the yoga and all, and I mean, it's wonderful to be in touch with your emotions, but there's a thing in coupling where a man makes a woman feel safe when she can be heard first and her feelings are validated. Men don't need validation. Men need the appreciation. Men need to be appreciated for a good job done. Thank you for listening for me. Hey, great meeting with Peter. Well done. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Because again, studies have shown that appreciation raises testosterone in men, makes them feel more successful when they're appreciated. And when women are validated, made to feel safe, their oxytocin and estrogen rise. Therefore, their level of attraction and connection rises. So if you can get a man to raise his testosterone and a woman to raise her estrogen, you create the polarity again for magic to happen, because that's what brought them together in the first place. So counteracting stress is understanding the hormones as well and being able to work with people to teach them the skill of being able to get testosterone up and to get the estrogen up, to create that polarity of attraction again.
Wow, yeah, that's really important and really interesting. I mean, so many people when they first start out in a relationship, it's all about your beating heart and all that
Yeah.
warmth and you can't wait to be with the other person or tell them everything and speak, both sides speak to one
Yeah.
another. And
Yeah.
and you do certain things, that make the other person feel that you see them and that you care about them. And then sometimes as relationships go on, people start to forget those things and they just go about their daily life and they forget to actually make the other person feel seen and heard, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and loved and cared for.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
also something that it's not okay to just, it's not like, new broom sweeps clean and then after
yeah,
a while you just forget to sweep,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
clean it
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally. And I
yeah,
mean, and that,
and
and that's where that's where um, men need to step up with their leadership and their ability to plan things to create safer time and because men are very much around time and space, right? So we need to step into that and say, okay, at this time in this space, you and I are going to do this, right? And have a plan for that. I mean, women are also often complaining to me so much that where's the adventure? And it's why romance books are like $1 billion industry, right? It's why movies like 50 Shades and things like that have done so well, is because in those roles, those men are leaders and they take women on an adventure, right? They take her deeper into her heart. So yeah, men need to step up there, I believe. And you know, look, it works both ways. What I say to ladies often as well is, if you're worried about the weekend and you want to get together and something, and he's not making a plan, he's always saying, "Oh, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy," right? He's that's what happens for guys is we want to make you happy, so you say where you want to go, right? Like, I don't care where we go as long as you're happy. So if we go to this restaurant, that's fine. We go to that restaurant, that's fine. As long as you are happy, I'm happy, right? But in her mind, she's going, man, this sucks. That's too much responsibility. I want to relax. I want you to lead and say where we're going and things. And so what women can do is they can say to him, babe, Friday I'm really available and I'd love to maybe have pizza on the couch, or I'd love to go see a nice show. Or, hey, how about we just jump into bed early and we read each other that story we always wanted to read, and say to her then, you know what, why don't you pick one of those and surprise me, right? So then she's saying to him, here's my invitation. These are the three things that I'd love to do, right? To keep things fresh and exciting and enjoy company with you. These are the three things, but you choose it. You lead. You decide, because if you decide, I can then appreciate you and go, yeah, what a great idea. Let's do the pizza on the couch on Friday. Wonderful idea, darling. And then he takes accountability for that. He feels like he came up with that, which he didn't, but he said yes to that. And she created the invitation for him. So that's a lovely way for people to start, from her perspective. From his perspective, it's really about being able to, as I say, I remember Alicia always saying to me, darling, it takes 100 candles for me to feel passion for you by the end of the evening, by the end of the day. Don't expect me just to be a big fire ball of energy. You need, and how I want those candles lit is I want you to send me a message every 2 hours. Just let me know what you're doing and let me know where you are and send me a picture. And in other words, stay connected to me. And when I was able to do that also, and respect that need and offer her that need, because in my mind, I'm like, but I'm fine, I'm working. Why do I need to check in with you for every 2 hours? Isn't that a waste of time? But to her, it was important. And in the end of the evenings, it was incredible, because then she felt the connections throughout the day and her need was met. So yeah, I hear you with the broom analogy, metaphor. It's a good one. We need to upskill ourselves, and we need to. And what's interesting also for me when I do the couples counseling is a few tweaks here and there, and two people buying into making those changes together make success happen. If they, what a lot of my couples do also is they choose an evening once a week where they say, okay, for half an hour, all we're going to do is share the same space, but we're not going to say anything to each other. So we're not going to talk, right? Because the minute we start talking, we talk about the kids, the money, the stress, but we're going to sit here in this room for half an hour on a Wednesday from 8:30 to 9, and we're just going to share space. We're not going to say a word to each other. And then what happens is the couple gets creative, and normally they start play fighting or tickling or doing sign language or whatever to each other. Then suddenly they get playful again, and they get to be like teenagers again, and they're not allowed to say a word, right? That's part of the exercise, and it's a wonderful way for them to connect that way too, non-verbally, and it normally ends up being an intimate experience for them.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that that's one of the things that people forget, is they forget to play and have fun. Because life has become so serious. It's all about the stress and the strain and the work and how they're going to pay for things and how they're going to get their kids grown up and all of this, that they just forget to have fun. I mean, even single people forget. People who are not even in a relationship, they are so focused on doing life, the reality of life, which isn't even a reality anyway, that they forget to have fun themselves. And I mean, I know that for myself. Sometimes I have to say, hey, lighten up for a bit, like, what the hell's wrong with you? Just go out and have some fun, get away from the computer and have some fun.
True.
And I think that a lot of times in relationships is that you have two people who just trying to do this life and they forget about that other part of it. And that's where it like loses touch, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes down to the person's individual decision to choose that mode of being. And that takes a bit of work, because when we are the victim to life or victim to a person or victim to our partner, it's very difficult to bring that fun and that play, because we're more focused on survival and fear dominates. And that's often learned in childhood, right? I mean, we all know that we often bring our childhood stuff into relationships. So, what's interesting also is I find women, when I ask them, when they enter a room of people, their subconscious mind is scanning for the man in the room who's most free. Okay? When a man enters a room and his subconscious is scanning the woman in the room, okay, what do you think he's looking for?
The one who's...
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the woman who's emanating the most light. Okay, the woman who's most comfortable in her body, and free in her body, and soft in her body. It's interesting. And I'm just saying subconsciously, this is what happens. And when I say that a woman looks for the man who's most free, what that means is that he's gone beyond the realms of sexuality, money, and power. Okay, those are the three forces that drive men often, is more power, more money, and more sex. Right? So if they become content with what they have and realize they can have more whenever they want it, in other words, they realize their life is abundant already with what they have, then they're no longer searching for more and the next project and the next job and the next income and the next. They become present, they become free. And remember, again, when a man is free, what it means for her is that he'll be present and playful with me.
Yeah.
Okay, so a man's journey into self-discovery is to go beyond the external need for fulfillment through sex, money, and power. Right? Because then he becomes free within that. Do you see that? So that's very attractive to a woman. And that's why men with a lot of money and status and things like that are often very attractive to women, because they give off that feeling of freedom. Right? Like he's available. Like he's not going to worry about the next paycheck. He's not going to worry about this or worry about that. But, the reality is that, 90% of men are worrying about those things. And that's just how life is at the moment. But again, through skill and through training and coaching, guys can get beyond those things, and they can learn how to leave those things behind them every day and get more playful with her, you know. And then again, back to the ladies there, you know, again, emanating light. What I mean by emanating light, again, light versus darkness, versus heaviness, versus anxiousness, versus depression in the body. She is choosing to channel love, openness, receptivity. And that is a skill for women. You know how hard it is these days for women to receive from men? And it's absolutely crucial. Women need to learn how to receive from men, but women have lost so much trust with men that they'd rather do it themselves, you know. So when a guy does try to open the door for you, she thinks, hey, you know, what is your ulterior motive? What do you want? You know, when all he's doing is he's trying to make her experience more lighter and more exciting by being a gentleman, opening the door. She thinks, what does he want? You know, oh, he's paying for dinner. He's going to expect sex. You see, so that trust's broken down, and so women are living in fear, and men are losing their place. They don't know really what more to do. As I say, their biggest complaint is, I don't know what more to do to make her happy. I tried opening the door and then she complained. I tried paying for dinner and she wasn't trusting me. What else must I do? Right?
Yeah.
So these imbalances have crept in, unfortunately, and understandably. You know, I mean, women have come from generations of trauma and abuse and things, so men need to be a little bit more understanding of that too. But back to the point there, women generally through coaching again can learn how to be receptive to what a man has on offer. It's when a woman goes hunting and she's the one on dating apps and she's the one trying to find the guy, and she's studying all the books and courses and how to find the guy and what, you know, all this stuff, that she's oozing masculine energy and she's oozing desperation, she's oozing neediness, which is then going to only attract a man who's emotionally weaker or more in his feminine, right? That's the reciprocal attraction that happens. And then she complains, like, why is he abusing? Why is he a narcissist? Why is he this? Why is he that? Is because she wasn't receptive to a quality man. Which is a very big topic, obviously, but I mean that it breaks my heart that, you know, just, and that's the main focus with a lot of the coaching again, is for a woman to also practice. So one of the ways I help her to do that is say to her, set up a time in your house where you can sit on the chair and you ask your partner for 10 minutes to go and do little things for you, and then appreciate him for doing it. So say to him, okay, go make me a cup of tea, and then he does that and he brings it to you. Right? In other words, you're receiving the cup of tea. Or she can say, go bring me my slippers. Or why don't you please pack away the dishwasher quickly? And then please won't you go and just fold the blanket and put it in the cupboard. So for 10 minutes, she gets to sit on the chair and do nothing, and she practices asking for him to do things for her. So she can learn to be receptive. Because I think one of the key things that I find in coaching ladies is that they need to do less and ask for more. Women are doing too much in relationships because they often want to make the man happy. They want to do things for him. They want to impress him. They want to win over his validation and appreciation and things. But if she can see what he can do for her, the balance is brought back again. And that takes trust, because women have been hurt, obviously. So it takes a lot of trust for her to get to the point where she can allow him, because that's a very vulnerable space for a woman, right? To be that exposed to say, you do for me, I'm dependent on you, right? But when a woman can anticipate her needs being met by a man, and this is all science, her estrogen soars and puts her back into that female polarity when she anticipates her needs being met. Right? And it's when a man anticipates being successful with the woman that his testosterone rises. You see, so if I've made you a cup of tea and I was successful at that and you said thank you and you appreciate that, boom, up goes my testosterone.
Yeah. And I mean, this is just simple little things. It's not even huge matters in life.
Yeah, it's become a huge matter because we're so disconnected from what works these days. You know, and that's what I said right in the beginning. We're just so diluted and our energy is dispersed all over the place that we forget what we basically need. And there's no shame in recognizing that we have need. That's why we enter relationships, is because two bodies are better than one. When two bodies can align and know how to truly love, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, yes, of course, it's wonderful on our own and things like that. But when you've got a conscious partner who's committed and has the intention of helping you become the best you can become, wow. Right?
Yeah.
But again, you see, it's the trauma, it's the childhood, etc., that spills over into the relationship as well, which one can never obviously discount. And that's where a lot of therapy needs to happen.
Yeah. And people have to be willing to actually go there, go deeper and go there.
Yeah.
And sometimes they can't really do it on their own,
But yeah, I mean,
Sometimes,
that's what,
sometimes we
yeah,
think
yeah,
we
yeah,
can.
yeah.
We think we
Yeah.
can, but often, we need help to
Yeah.
to see it from a different perspective, and
Yeah.
for something to be pointed out. And
Yeah.
sometimes it could be like quite a shock to, like, no, really, that's not how I am, But
Yeah.
that's why having somebody to coach you and help you
Yeah.
with these things is really important.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I just want to touch on. I know we're going a little over time, but it's so interesting, and I'd like to touch on your Unbound Women workshops that you have,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what you help people to achieve in these.
Man, there's something that is so magical that happens when you get a group of people together with the same intention. The sharing and the stories. And there's no coincidence how those random people meet up on the same time, same place for a workshop. They all have similar trauma and stories, and it's an incredibly healing environment. And hormonally encouraging, meaning, when women also get to share as well in a group like that, again, promotes so much estrogen and oxytocin, because it creates that connection and that community that women used to do all the time. So the workshop is really about, because it's normally a small group as well, it's normally very one-on-one, and the workshop has a structure, but of course then we do go into the individual sort of concerns that each woman has as well. And I think at the end of the workshop, the ladies walk out there with a lot more tools and awareness, and a whole bunch of new like-minded connections and friends too, that they can walk forward in life with a little bit, and keep each other accountable going forward. And it's always such a privilege and a wonderful thing to do. I'm always in awe of what people go through and how well they have gotten through to this point. I mean, I worked with a lady in one of the workshops where 3 years prior, she had been in a rape experience. And she had done a whole lot of work to get her power back and to heal her heart. And then I think it was in December last year, somebody broke into her place, and she could sense that this person was there to hurt her, harm her, possibly even rape her. And because she was so empowered, what this woman did was she stood up and she took off all her clothes and she said, "Come and take me."
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And guess what happened? The perpetrator ran away.
Wow.
He didn't know what to do because she was in her power, and she didn't resist, she didn't fight, she just, she surrendered to the potential experience. And because of the work that she had done, she knew that she was all and everything already, and she was complete just as she is, no matter what anyone can or can't do against her. And she stood in that power, and she just exposed herself, boom, and she said, "Come get me." Right? And so that is femininity in its most powerful, where she just owns her true strength, and the results of that are incredible. And that's often what we end up experiencing at the workshops.
That's really fantastic. Now, I know that you run these in South Africa, in Johannesburg, and also in, is it Mossel Bay?
Yeah, the garden route, yeah, George, Mossel
Yeah,
Bay, wilderness areas.
in different places. And so, obviously at the end, we'll put all your links and everything into the comments, so that anybody that
Thank
needs to
you.
get hold of you knows where to find you.
Thank you.
you know, for any of these workshops or for individual coaching as well. And of course, I know that you still use homeopathy as well. So, you know, there's a whole lot of different things. You spoke a little earlier about, you know, women getting onto, you know, dating sites and things like that, because you know, well, where do people find one another these days? You know, how do you prepare yourself to find somebody? And in my experience, I've spoken to many women, and they've said that, you know, like they go onto a dating site, the person that they eventually meet is nothing like what they've said they are. And even sometimes the age, how they look, it's old photographs, all sorts of things like that. I mean, that's pretty well known. And that they will what they say they want in a woman would be that they want somebody who's open and caring and loving, and you know, somebody who's honest and everything. And then it turns out that actually what they want is just a whole lot of different partners for different parts of their relationship. And women find it really incredibly difficult. I mean, how do you actually go out and find somebody?
You know, I think, so I mean, it's a good topic. There's so much to that. I'll try and answer it directly and as best I can from my experience with these things, and also personally. I mean, after my wife died, and it's been 6 years now, you know, I've had my own experiences with those photographs and meeting real life people.
And it's women and men. It's not just women trying to meet men. It's the other way around as well.
So generally, I find men want to find all their needs met in one woman. I honestly do find that most men are wanting to find all of that in one person. Depends on the stage of where the man's at also, you know. And look, I mean, I know a lot of guys do also enjoy variety, and they are there just to experience different flavors. And generally it's, you know, how quickly can I seduce and open this woman and have some sort of sexual release outlet or whatever. You know, guys are often fishing for material to masturbate to, and that's just the honest truth, because we're so visual and we're so image focused. You know, so that's the typical booty call on Friday at like 10 o'clock at night. You know, why is this guy messaging me? Because he's messaging 20 other women also to see who's available, so that he can have a quick little release there. You know? I like this approach, and that is to, again, in your body, visualize and imagine what it's like to have that person that you want, to pretend as if you're married, you know, to act as if. And the truth is, if you were in that state more of the time, why would you go on a dating app, right? If you were living from that place of already being married, already having the right person in your life, which is a massive affirmation, you about where to meet the next person. Now, I know that's not always possible, obviously, and we need to take action also. But I think if one does explore the dating app thing, in my own personal experience, the more honest you can be, and the more updated you can be, and really specify what it is that you're looking for, then you will start to get more of that coming back to you as well. Meaning, if your photos and things are very vague and filtered and from 10 years ago, you know, expect to meet someone who's doing the exact same thing. Whereas if you've got an updated photo and you're saying what you want, you know, chances are good you'll meet someone. I know a lot of people have met people online like that, you know, Tinder and things like that, and they got married, right? So, I mean, these things can work. It depends on what state you find yourself in your life and things like that. But I think that, you know, you've got to check in and make sure that it's not coming from a desperate, needy place, because that then can attract any kind of swamp creature, you know, that Friday night, 10 o'clock at night, you know. Be careful of that. And, I've worked with so many women where it's so scary how they've been scammed and swindled, and they attract these men who are incredibly controlling, abusive, manipulative types of men. Because women, a lot of my coaching is also helping women identify red flags and to get very clear on how to filter through and actually decide on quality men. Because and how to ask for that and demand that from the person and actually get to rejection quickly in these dating experiences. Women tend to hang around there too long, hopeful, right, because of their big hearts. But I teach them how to ask the right questions so that they can get to that point of filtering through and getting to that no quicker, right? And having that abundant mindset of there's so many people out there and the right one is out there for me. So sorry, you don't crack the nod here. So getting very clear on what your non-negotiables are also. People need to do that because people forget what's, they just hope for something to bite, and you need to know what type of thing you're looking, what type of person experience you're looking for. Clarity,
Yeah.
clarity.
Oh yeah, clarity, and being in the right energetic space yourself, as you
Yeah,
said, because
that's exactly
what
it.
you're putting out
Yeah,
there is what you're going to attract as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this is such an interesting conversation, and
yeah,
there's so much more that we could discuss
yeah,
here as well.
yeah.
Um, so, Nick, I'd like to just ask you, what would be the one thing that you would say to your woman clients? One good bit of advice, and what would be the one thing that you would say to your men clients? One good bit of advice.
I'd say to the ladies, practice moving slower, and there's many levels to that. Moving slower. It's about, moving their bodies slower, moving through their day slow. Slow down, ladies. Okay? Okay? Which brings about trusting. Right? So if I go slower, I'd still get the same results. Yes, you will, because your intuition will rise.
Right.
To men, I'd say to them, please practice breathing more and start to get a program going where you manage your sexual energy better. And I say breathing and sexual energy because if men can breathe deeper and they can get in touch with their bodies more, they'll be way more present. And if they can be more aware of where they're sending their sexual energy, they'd be far better companions and also just better human beings to be around too.
Fabulous. I love that. I love both of those. Yeah.
There's a lot
Yeah.
to those. There's a lot
Yeah.
to those two things, right? But in
Yeah.
essence, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, what I'd like to say is then that, anyone wanting to get in touch with Nick, we'll put the links in the comments. And not only, are the workshops and one-to-ones run in South Africa, but they can be done online around the world as well.
Yeah, a lot of
And
online work. Yeah.
yeah, so nobody has to be excluded, and no woman or man has to be excluded. So yeah, I think that anybody that gets in contact with Nick will really be doing themselves a great favor in their life, and they will come away truly and deeply enriched. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you again, Nick, for joining
Thank
us
you.
here today. I've really enjoyed this chat, and I'd love to catch up again sometime and go deeper into some other areas.
Thank you so much. And the palpitation I had earlier on in my chest has moved into a far calmer, rhythmic sort of beat. So that's very reassuring for me that we've had a lovely connection here. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you again in another conversation. Bye now.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.